right? They don't even know who they are themselves. You're saying if they made a law that disadvantaged gay people and then the veil of secrecy was lifted, they might be gay themselves?
Yes.
But but they must know who they are themselves.
Yes, so this is a thought experiment.
It's a thought experiment.
Highly hypothetical state.
So
they don't know, like...
hypothetically, they don't even know who they are themselves.
Yeah.
They just understand some laws about what's
general facts, yeah.
General facts about humans and things like that in nature.
Yeah. And that's the most debated thing. I mean, how is that possible?
Right.
People do not know. It's a thought experiment. You imagine you're in a situation like that, and you have to decide. Like, put yourself in other people's shoes.
Right.
Right. When you want to try to use principles of justice.
Okay, I understand. So, could you explain moral laws? And could you just explain moral laws for a minute?
Moral laws?
Right.
Moral laws are laws that guide the people in their behavior towards other people. It means like laws that tell us what is right and what is wrong when we do something.
So, say if I do something bad, then or if I do something, if there's a punishment, then I will understand that I've done something bad.
When there's a punishment, that doesn't mean if you don't do anything because of punishment, that's not moral. It's not morality because you're afraid of the punishment.
No, I'm just saying, like, what teaches us when we make a mistake.
Okay, well, I can explain how it goes according to utilitarianism and Kant, for example. Utilitarianism says, as I said, the greatest happiness of the greatest number. So it means, like, for example, a murder. A murder is wrong because it brings unhappiness. It doesn't bring happiness. So that's the reasoning of utilitarianism, and that's how they claim we know moral laws by that. What brings happiness, what brings unhappiness. According to Kant, moral law is something that we give it to ourselves. So we know it as ourselves in a way that if I do something, but at the same time I don't will that other people do the same thing, then that's the wrong thing. Like murder. If I will to murder someone, but at the same time I will that other people don't murder. So murder is wrong. It has nothing to do with happiness or unhappiness. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Utilitarian belief system that as long as a great number of people aren't unhappy, then it's morally okay. But what if they don't know what happened?
Yeah, well,
It's still morally okay if you did something wrong.
yeah, that's a good question, and that's actually the debate all over the centuries. Like, how do we know that they know that they did a happy thing for someone else? So that's the question that still hasn't had an answer, as I know.
So does he say, I came later but I read the paper, so does he say that the original position is set apart from religion? And I mean, it is set apart from religion. It's only based on social sciences, on personal feelings of fairness, etc., right? So why does he think that the original position would be sought advantages, like it wouldn't be based on the utilitarian principle? This is not very clear to me, because in many societies we have, in many societies, of course they don't have social science, etc., etc., like for example native societies, and you still have laws which are
Okay. Well then, yeah, you didn't come at the beginning. I mentioned something about the state of nature. Yeah. And like it resembles a lot like people who live in these native societies. And that John Rawls belongs to this social contract theory. But instead of state of nature, he calls it original position. Yeah. And state of nature, according to these contractarian theories, turns into society, into a state. The state of nature, according to them, is not something that can exist forever, because there might be conflicts and no other higher authority to appeal to. That's this part of the question. And the other part, you said something about religion, if I...
Yeah, it's okay. No, I was just being clear. Religion is basically apart from the original position. It's like, but isn't it possible that, I mean, like in communism, you know, like personal people's feelings, they always in between the switching, like the establishment of what we consider as fair. You know, like people have a sense of fairness, but they also have a sense of competitiveness. They like to be better. They like to have a bigger house. They like to have to go to the line faster than the other. They just don't want to wait. They like to, you know, they like to be served more quickly than the others. So if they can achieve that in the system, they will go for it. Like we have seen that from living in socialist countries. We have seen that it happens all the time. So the question is, how does he reconcile this with, you know, people's personal thing that they like to be better, that they like to, you know, with the...
Yeah, exactly, that's why he establishes these rules, but he knows that all people want to be better, and that's why he favors the least advantaged group, and he doesn't forbid the most advantaged group to develop further and to get more welfare. And for him, it's actually not important if it is a democracy or communism, as long as the principles of justice are applied. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
So did Rawls write something about how to put his theory into the practice, or is pure theoretical thing?
Well, he wrote later when he was criticized about mostly about stability, how the system would be stable, and in the same work actually he wrote in the theory of justice, he wrote about stability of the system, but then he was criticized, and in the 90s he recasted his viewpoint, and he tried to explain it further. Also he did something that is called extension. He himself called it extension. Like you can extend it to, for example, other groups that actually like minority groups like immigrants or invalids or whatever. Okay, overweight people, for example, and also between the countries, like original position between the countries, how they have to deal with them between themselves.
Yeah, I think it's kind of
Did Rawls or you personally recognize any systems in contemporary world that are closer to his theory?
Oh, well, I don't think that Rawls mentioned any systems that are close to his theory, but I mentioned there is no purely Rawlsian society today, I would say, but I mentioned like the free education, higher education in Germany, maybe in other countries too, I don't know.
Yeah, but
that's like one of the rules of the equal opportunities. Or, for example, maybe the Swedish socialism, like even the least, the poorest people actually is richer than the middle class of most of the countries in the world. These kind of things.
I have a question about the ontological status of these principles. Because on the one hand, he grew up from the Kantian tradition, that is the Enlightenment tradition, when, for example, principles, values, they have their own ontological status. Right? You have to get enlightened and you find out that those values actually exist, right? And then you have to realize them in this work. And on the other hand is trying to put it together with this social contract, right? Of faults and so on and so on. But it is some kind of contradiction here. Because he opposed the utilitarian tradition, right? But the utilitarian tradition actually is just probably closer to this social contract than history, because if we just sit here, there are 20 persons, and if there's 15 persons that vote for something, then we realize the social, some kind of social contract, right? And so he tried to oppose that, but on the other hand, he just said that actually those values, as long as they understand principles, that they came from some kind of social contract, right? Otherwise, he has to recognize the Kantian position when the values are just a priori. They have some kind of, the ontological status. So my question is that, well, how do you actually, can agree these two traditions, or how he sees those principles, those values, because he didn't necessarily, he didn't write anything actually about the metaphysics, but in the end, he has to face the problem, of why should we actually recognize those principles? Because what is this? It's okay, he says everybody should be equal and so on, but ask me as to why. It's a simple question about the subject, okay, so my point is where did they actually come from?
Well, how do you mean come from? Background?
Yeah, because from the Kant, okay, cool. There there's a prior values, we just have to, this is the Kant, right, this is the tradition of enlightenment, right? We have to, just wake up, use our existence and find out the real values. They exist, they are prior before our experience. But on the other hand, the social contract theory is not that we have some kind of ultimate values, but we just find out that this is okay for us. But on the other hand, we also oppose utilitarianism. So
okay.
What I mean?
If I can understand the question, then I would say why he opposes utilitarianism, or why he doesn't agree that utilitarianism is not most just solution for a society. Even utilitarianism itself doesn't claim that this is the most just system whatsoever in general. It says this is the most just system for the moment. So if anyone can find a system that is more just than utilitarianism, then probably they could discuss and debate about it. But until now, that's how utilitarianism says. Until now, this is the best principle for justice, and we can't think of any better. So Rawls says, well, I can think of better system of justice, and he opposes utilitarianism in this way. And he tries to satisfy all people as much as possible. That's why he called it fairness. Justice is fairness. That fairness gives to him.
Yeah, but the idea of fairness, the principle of fairness, why it is valid? Where that idea comes from, the value of that value, where does it come from?
Wake up. Because according to Rawls, we are reasonable and rational creatures.
And the product of reason.
The product of reason, and we come back to Kant again, and Kant says that reason gives the laws to our behavior. So we are reasonable creatures, and we know we have sense of justice. We know what's fair. It comes from the reason. Totally rationalistic approach.
What is the basis of this notion that we have an innate sense of fairness and justice? Where does that come from?
Well, maybe then we should go back further to Kant and to other things and metaphysics and epistemology and...
She supports the rule?
No, I mean, your question is like more metaphysical
Well,
probably.
how does he, John Rawls, bases the fairness notion? What is the root of his own fairness notion? That this is fair, you know? Sometimes it's fair that I will, if I'm hungry, I should steal from somebody and just, you know, notions of fairness are different in different cultures. Very different.
Yeah, well, his notion of fairness is the rational one. It comes from the German philosopher from the 18th century. He's a purely rational philosopher. So for him, it's like it's unknown. Like our reason will set the rules, and we know what is just.
But German rationality, there's also some kind of, I don't know if I know, it's like, you know, that in the end, it's like we are rational, but we have to just discover something what exists a priori, right? So actually, this is some kind of religion anyway, because even Kant can't believe in God, right? Even, you know, like in the end, there was a God. So it was religion, some kind of religion, even it was condemned by the old Catholics and so on. But anyway, there was something, established the truth, we just have to find them out, actually.
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I said, Rawls is not protected by any opposition and critics. And he has a lot of implausibilities, and it's a big debate, I think, until now. And he tried to give many answers to these critics, and to some he didn't succeed, because they wasn't very convincible, these answers. What was the second part? Is there a second part of the question? Yeah.
No, I don't, but you mean like the last one? And I asked, no, I just, because I doubt very much, you know, that actually like...
Yeah, okay, I remember, okay. So it's like you mentioned the communism and this. Yeah, probably in the future, we don't know, there will be a Rawlsian movement. How do we know? Like Marx, we don't know that what will happen today. There to be a Marxism and socialist country who claim that Marx invented this system. Probably in the future there will be Rawlsian who will do some revolution and change societies and establish this kind of...
I have a question. Two questions actually. You get a chance to ask them. So now, say in this system, in Rawls' system, would you still have a government? The original position would create a government, and the government would run some sort of justice system, which would also include prisons, right? So I mean, there would be judges judge immoral acts.
Yeah.
My other question: are there any others besides this utilitarianism and then say the one that you're talking about? Are there other people that have suggested other things?
Yes. He mentioned only 5. His own, the purely utilitarian one. Then he gives a mixed conception, like using the first principle of his, and then the second changes to utilitarian. Then the fourth is called intuitionistic, and the second is the fifth, the egoist. The egoist, the egoist view of justice. So he rules out all this, like egoist, intuitionistic, and the mixed, and he mostly discusses against the utilitarian system of justice. Oh, just justice is what is good for me. That's the simple thing.
Yeah, it's just that to me, how do we conceptualize this fairness principle is it can be culture specific. Like I just thought of Buddha, for example. Hunting is forbidden there, hunting of animals. Because it's considered animals are the same like people in their so it's very like that's just an example of how they see these things to be culture specific. Or even in men, because women and men are different, so they have different rights, etc., etc. So,
Can I just maybe add some word, because I think like Kant and Rawls, like to like responding both of you, they were talking about very similar things, but from different angle. Like they Rawls completely is not interested in like metaphysical questions, where did the fairness, the sense of fairness come from. Like he is purely philosopher for society. He wants to establish a fair society, and he doesn't care about where does it come from, the sense of fairness, and is it unique for different cultures or just for one Western culture. He just wants to establish society. Maybe it is. So he just is not interested like in the regions of sense of fairness. Maybe it's kind of healthy.
So in a way, it's almost like reconstructing society from the very basics. It's almost like what we have now, let's just level all that, let's totally destroy all that. If we start with a new thing, we're going to quickly then realize all of the good things that we have with this system, but in a new, better system.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're talking about women and men. Obviously, women have different needs than men do. Specifically thinking about like a bathroom. You go to a men's bathroom, you just see a bunch of, one toilet and a whole bunch of like a trough or something, right? But a women's bathroom has to have many toilets, right? So it's what I'm thinking is that if you did sort of get rid of everything and go to this better system, which I think is a better system, maybe other people won't, but you would then quickly realize you would just out of necessity and out of common understanding, you would then also have these the differences would work themselves out very fast.
Starting over again, society has developed, society has changed, so that's why because it looks to me like, for example, Scandinavian societies are more on this way of thinking. So you just as the laws change, you adjust them. Like maybe 50 years ago, we didn't talk about like gender issues, right? But now it's kind of established like standpoint in Europe. So
Right, but I'm not saying. Sorry, this is now turning into a discussion. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying when you level society or whatever, destroy all society. I'm not saying you forget everything. It's not like you go back in time. So we all still have this knowledge of what we had in this current system, right? So we would take all that knowledge, but then we would just build all of the laws and the government structure on the new system. You know what I mean?
But it isn't possible. Because as long as you take for example, from the one hand, you just try to implement some kind of revolution for reconstruction, right? So you say, okay, we don't have the system, we have to build a new one. But on the other hand, we have, what can we do? Just can we take a bricks from the old system and rebuild a new building? But then we still the same bricks. Like we are in Taiwan, and I always have lots of fun with the educational system. There is a standard examinational system. For example, it was like 1905 or 6, right? And then after the establishment of the Republic of China, they tried to, what can we do? Because that system was bad. And what did they do? They just created the same system, just reconstructed. So this is the new alternative for our contemporary society. I think it's just another, like a fourth try, because we will take the same bricks, and we'll build something new. Okay, cool, they can be different shape, but it's still the same bricks, so in the end, the quality of the building will be exactly the same as the quality of the building was thrown down, So, because we don't have a choice, as you said, actually.